Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. It's Thursday night and I'm here with a technique for you. I call this Time for a Technique. So every other Thursday night I jump on and share a technique. Tonight I'm going to do whitewashing. The Cottage Rose or Abigail Rose Suite. Oh, great. I'm glad this sounds better tonight. But I did have a funny thing happen. As I just about was pressing the go live button, I couldn't find my mouse. I have no idea what was going on. And I could see out of the corner of my eye, my desktop monitor was flickering. But it turns out my laptop seemed to be sharing a screen with my main computer. I have no idea what's happening, but it's very weird. Anyway, I figured it out, found my mouse, and was able to go live. Anyway, time for technique. I'm using the Cottage Rose or the Abigail Rose bundle from the annual catalog. If you know me, you know that this is one of my favorites, and I'm having so much fun. And the color combination of early espresso petal pink crumb cake and very vanilla just seems to be, I don't know, it's calling to me these days with this suite. Hey, Catherine. Hey, Nancy. Two Nancys on tonight. Welcome. All right, I'm going to switch over to my desktop and we'll get started. All right, so this is the Cottage Rose stamp set from the annual catalog. It is part of the, somewhere I have the dies here too. Here they are. It's part of the Abigail Rose product suite. There is some absolutely stunning designer series paper, and then the dies that will cut out these, as well as this die that cuts out one of the shapes from the designer series paper. Just such a pretty suite. If you were on our virtual launch on Saturday, gosh, was it only Saturday? Maybe it was last Saturday. No, it's the 28th. I showed a whole bunch of samples using this suite. Hello, Mona. Welcome from Maryland. Nice. Glad you're here. If you're coming in through YouTube, don't forget to take the time to subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll get notified when I go live. That just makes it easier. All right, I've got a piece of early espresso cardstock and I'm just going to trim it to 4 1/4 by 11 and then score it at 5 1/2. If your card base is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, you're going to score it at 4 1/4. As always, grab your bone folder and you're going to fold into the mountain or into the raised line just to get that nice fold, and then use your bone folder to get a great crease in it. Okay, so early espresso. Now, this is the distressed gold specialty paper. And this is part of, my brain is gone, what suite this is part of. Oh, I know what it is. Textured Chic. I had to think about this. So this is part of the Texture Chic suite, and I just thought it would look nice as a bit of a layer. And then I've got a piece of, almost seems a shame to cover this over, but I'm just going to have a peekaboo of gold. And then I've got a piece of petal pink, and I have run that through the cascading ruffle. This is a new embossing folder, one of the 3D embossing folders. So I've run it through that, and I'm going to adhere all of these layers together. This is makes quite a deep emboss into your paper. It's quite pretty, actually. I wasn't so sure about it. So if you ever want to save foil or some of this distressed and not, kind of seems like a waste, I've got a bunch of pieces, you can always cut out the middle. Nobody will see that you've cut out a die cut or something from the middle of it. And that way you're just saving paper. I, of course, didn't think about that until, I get on live, but there we go. Isn't that pretty? Just a little peekaboo of gold. Okay, so there's my card base, at least to start. So now I've got a piece of crumb cake. And so what you do, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some heat embossing. I like to use heat embossing when I'm doing some whitewash. Just seems to be great, creates a nice outline barrier for you to, ooh, this is really stuck down, to, there we go, get my finger underneath this to lift it up. These cling mount stamps are great because they really do stick. All right, I'm using this big flower, and then we'll figure out what sentiment I'm going to put on in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to do some heat embossing. So I've got my Versamark ink up, my stamp, and I'm going to die cut this out, so I'm stamping it at the bottom. And now I have got my gold embossing powder in my plastic container with my spoon so that I can hopefully not get embossing powder all over. There we go. There we go. All right. So lid back on that so I don't spill it. Now I'm going to bring in my heat tool. Hopefully it won't be too loud. And as I tell you, the trick to heat embossing is to hold it in one spot until it starts to melt, and then you can start moving it around. So just hold it over until the powder goes from the dull matte finish to a shiny finish. And that is your sign that it has started to melt. There we go. And then you can start moving it around. Sometimes if you leave it in one spot too long, it kind of over bakes, and then the embossing powder starts to kind of sink or melt into the paper, and you don't want that. So once it starts to melt, you can just move it around until you've got all of it done. And so there's my pretty flower. Now I'm just going to let that cool down a minute, and while it's cooling down, we are going to mix up our whitewash. I've got some of the Whisper White Craft re-inker. So this is the pigment ink, and so you don't need a lot of it, so just a little dot. And then you need some water. So I've got some water here. If you've got a spritzer, you could use that. Oopsie, got a lot there. I think I've got a baby wipe here. I do. All right. Just in case I manage to spill this, there, we'll get it on our silicone mat. Now, I've got a water painter. I'm using one of not the thickest, and I'm just going to take and mix this. Now I've got way more than I need, but I like to make it quite liquidy, and this is maybe even not liquidy enough. Let's see. No, I don't want to do that. Let's see if I can get some liquid out of my water painter. Sometimes if you don't have it liquid enough, it makes it harder to paint. So I'm just going to kind of get some more water. There we go. All right. Okay, so I'm going to just take this, and now you can just start painting the inside of your flower. Because it's heat embossed, it kind of gives you a barrier or outline, kind of holds the paint in. Now, a couple of things when you're done, taking a paper towel or something and just kind of wiping your image off, because you will find, of course, that the heat, where you've heat embossed it, that is like a resist, and it will not soak up any of the paint or the ink that is over top of it. So I'm just coloring in my flower. This seems to be a kind of a perfect stamp. It's nice and big, so you can absolutely see the white on it. Now I'm going to do my leaves as well. I am going to go in, I'm going to cut this out using the dies, but once it's dry, I'm going to maybe take a heat tool to it so that it'll dry fast enough. I'm actually going to use a sponge dauber and put a little bit of pink onto my flower. I'm not going to do the leaves in green, but I'm just going to do some pink on the flower just to give it a little bit of extra color using my stamp pad and then a sponge dauber. Okay. Now you can let this dry and then you can go back over it if you find that your it's not quite kind of white enough, whitewashed enough. There we go. All right, now let's kind of clean up my mess here. Let's just wipe that. There we go. So it's good to have a baby wipe or something to wipe up your liquid. Now let's just take, I don't have a paper towel, so I'm just going to take and gently go over this with a baby wipe. And then I'm going to take my heat tool and just run some heat over it to dry it. If you if I was just kind of not doing this as a live, I would let it sit for, you know, half an hour or so before I did it, but I think it's okay. Now I'm going to take and cut this out. Will this work if you emboss in black or clear? Absolutely. You won't, black probably is better than clear because you won't see the outlines so much if you do it in clear, but black for sure, or any other color. You could do silver, you could do white, you could do copper. Yeah, you could do any color. I just like the combination of the gold since I had gold on my card base. All right, I'm trying to get this lined up. I'm just going to take this off the side. My Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine is over here. And we will take and cut out the flower. There. So I've got my kind of whitewashed flower, which is going to go on my card base. And before I do that, I'm going to take, I've got Blushing Bride. Actually, I probably should have had Petal Pink, but Blushing Bride is fine. It's only going to be just a little bit of color. And I'm picking it up with a sponge daub. And I'm just kind of sponging, and you might not be able to see that, but there we go. I'm just kind of sponging a little bit of color in the center of my flower. So the other thing that I have here is, now that's not really going to show, so I'm going to grab a different ribbon. This is the Petal Pink polyester ribbon, and I was going to use this before I decided that I was going to put this pink layer on. So this is the 7/8 inch natural finish ribbon. It's actually, I believe it's a polyester ribbon. It is. So we'll use that. Let's see, maybe something like that. It's frays, so if you like ribbon that frays, which I do, it frays very nicely. If you don't like ribbon that frays, well, this might bother you because it does tend to fray. But I'm going to cut it straight for now, and we're just going to put it on like that. Something like that. You can stamp on here, and maybe that's what we'll do. Let's do some stamping in some little flowers in early espresso, just to add some detail to this ribbon. It's feeling like it needs maybe something. So I've got this stamp that's got the 3 little flowers on it. So let's do some stamping on this ribbon. So you can see that it stamps very nicely. I did try to color it with blends, but I did find that the blends, it did start to run right away. But stamping seems to work really well, and just really adds to the ribbon now. And of course, I'm going to cut this because I've got my stamping on one side, and if I fold it, you're not going to see the stamping. So let's do it like this. There we go. Like that, something like that. Seemed like a good idea at the time. All right, we're going to go with my original idea. We will just take some Stampin' Seal and run down like that. And some Stampin' Seal like that. Gonna make it a banner. And then we'll use some dimensionals. I've got some black dimensionals. So whitewashing works very well on, I always tend to use crumb cake. I'm sure you could use other colors, but I just really like the look of whitewashing on crumb cake. Like that. All right, so now we need a sentiment. So I've got some very vanilla cardstock, and somewhere I have my early espresso. So let's find what have we got here? Let's do a happy birthday. And so we'll stamp this in early espresso, and I've just got a scrap of very vanilla cardstock. Yeah, this is it's big ribbon. It's 7/8, so it's quite a wide ribbon, and it just feels like it needs something. So I'm really happy that you can just use any ink to stamp with it on. I was expecting to probably have to use tuxedo black, but this early espresso stamped really well, so I'm happy about that. All right, I'm just going to take and use some mini dimensionals here on the end, and yeah, and then I'm going to use just a little bit of Stampin' Seal on this end because I want to pop up just the side that isn't popped up. There we go. So put that there. And somewhere, oh, here, I have some elegant faceted gems. These go perfectly with petal pink and crumb cake. They come in 3, let's see, maybe if I can get them out of the package. I folded the package to put it away. There we go. Comes in 3 colors. There's the clear, there is the kind of cloudy, and then there is the one that is petal pink. I'm going to use kind of the cloudy ones just because I like the look with the white. And we'll put there. So there's some gems. And then the last thing I want to do is to take and stamp something. I got my paper wet. That's not good. I'm just going to stamp these little flowers here in this corner. And then we'll adhere this to the inside of my card base. I'm hoping my little watermark will dry. If not, I'll replace this later. There we go. There. So there's the inside of the card. Pretty. So you can see the whitewashing, a little bit of pink. You could, like I said, I could have waited till that was dry, even more dry than it is, and gone over it and done some more whitewashing. And it would have looked even whiter than it does, but it's got a nice white tinge to it, even with that. So try it out. You can get the Craft Whisper White ink. Comes when you buy it with the ink pad. It actually comes with what's the word? Unfilled ink pad. You actually have to ink up your ink pad with the re-inker. It doesn't come pre-inked. And so you get the ink pad as well as the bottle, the re-inker to do that with. So that is available in the annual catalog. And then the gold embossing powder is available in the the metallic embossing powder combo. I think there are 3: copper, gold, and silver in that combination. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be back. Actually, well, I should be back on Saturday. Not sure what the time is. Normally I go live at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. I am taking a training class all day. And so I have to look at the schedule to see what time I actually will be live. But I will be live on Saturday at some point. And also Sunday at 12 noon with another project. So I hope you'll join me. Again, if you're coming in through YouTube and you haven't subscribed, make sure you take the time to subscribe so you'll get notified when I go live. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great evening. Happy stamping. Bye.